There was no button for the 13th floor. At least, that's what Daniel thought when he signed the lease for his sole apartment. But at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday night, the elevator doors opened onto a hallway that shouldn't exist. Same fluorescent lights, same concrete walls, same doors stretching endlessly. But this floor was watching him back. Welcome to the Liminal Archive, entry number 001, the apartment that watches back. You know that feeling. An empty school corridor at midnight, a subway platform where no trains arrive, a hotel hallway that seems to stretch forever. These are liminal spaces, thresholds between the familiar and unknown. In this archive, we explore the psychology behind these unsettling places and the stories they generate. Tonight, we enter one of the world's most perfect liminal environments, a Korean apartment complex, where 25 million people live in identical concrete boxes stacked 30 floors high, connected by endless identical hallways that all look exactly the same. Daniel was a 28-year-old English teacher from Toronto, 3 months in Seoul, living in a typical Korean apartment. Narrow hallways, identical doors, fluorescent lights that never quite feel warm enough. His unit was 1204, 12th floor, apartment 4. The elevator buttons went B1, 1, 2, 3, 11, 12, 14, 15. No 13th floor. In Korea, buildings often skip any floor with the number 4. It sounds like the word for death. But Daniel was Canadian. He didn't believe in superstitions, until the night he discovered that some floors exist anyway. It was 2:47 a.m., late shift at the academy, a few beers with colleagues. The lobby was empty except for the security guard half asleep behind his desk. Daniel pressed 12. The elevator climbed 3, 4, 5. He leaned against the wall, exhausted. 10, 11. The elevator slowed, but instead of 12, it stopped. No number lit up, no floor indicator, just silence. Then the doors opened. Same hallway, same doors, same everything. But the apartment numbers were wrong. The 13th floor. The floor that didn't exist. Daniel stepped out. The air felt thicker here, like it had been sitting still for years. He walked toward apartment 1304, the same position as his own unit. The nameplate was blank, but there was light seeping under the door, and from inside, the sound of someone moving around, someone who sounded exactly like him. What Daniel experienced is a perfect example of architectural uncanny valley. Our brains create mental maps of familiar spaces. When those maps are disrupted, when we find a floor that shouldn't exist, we experience cognitive dissonance. Korean apartment buildings are particularly effective at creating this disorientation. Identical layouts, repetitive structures, no visual landmarks to distinguish one floor from another. Add the cultural superstition around the number 4, and you create a psychological gap, a space where the mind expects nothing. But nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the human psyche. We fill empty spaces with our deepest fears. In Korea, apartments aren't just homes. They're vertical villages where hundreds of families live within meters of each other, yet remain strangers. The phenomenon of chung gain so ium, interfloor noise, has become a national obsession. Footsteps from above, voices through thin walls, the constant awareness that someone is always watching, listening, living just beyond your ceiling. Stories like Daniel's tap into this urban anxiety. What if there's someone else in your building who isn't supposed to be there? Someone living in the gaps between official floors, in the spaces that don't exist on any blueprint? Daniel never found out who was in apartment 1304. The next morning, he asked the building manager about the 13th floor. The manager looked at him like he was crazy. "There is no 13th floor," the man said. "Never has been." But Daniel knows what he saw, what he heard, and sometimes, late at night when the elevator stops between floors, he wonders if that other version of himself is still up there, still waiting. This has been entry number 001 of the Liminal archive. Have you ever found yourself in a place that shouldn't exist? Share your liminal experience in the comments. Subscribe to cross more thresholds with us. And remember, in the space between floors, anything is possible. Entry filed, archive closed.